can make just a short presentation. If all of you just say your name and what organization you come from. That's enough, so everybody know who is who. So please start.
Okay, hi everybody. I am Martin Kessler. I work in the University of Tartu, Estonian Marine Institute. I'm a fish biologist and I've been involved with salmon and sea trout monitoring and population related issues in Estonia, and currently a chair of ICS Baltic Salmon and Sea Trout Working Group. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Tatiana Ivanova, St. Petersburg, Baltic Fund for Nature. That's all.
Thank you. Can Aldis and Andris present yourself?
I am Aldis Alziņš. I am from Latvian Environmental Protection Club, a governmental organization that is.
Andris?
Hello, my name is Andris Urtans, and I'm on one hand from NGO Riverscape, and in the same time representing Nature Conservation Council agency. So two in one, and background hydrobiologist. Okay, sorry for my after brain strike. I have some problems.
And actually, at the moment, Andris works as a member of Nature Club, but we are going to become a members of Coalition Clean Baltic, because Waterscape is NGO United Water Specialists. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for my assistant. Okay. Okay. Again, yeah, Lord Urtans, hydrobiologist, limnologist, so two in one again. Thanks.
Elita Kalniņa, Latvia, Environmental Protection Club. I'm working together with Aldis about all activity in river dump and small hydropower station. It's my work many years, yes, with small hydropower station and then salmon protect too. Yeah.
Thanks, Elita. Robertas?
Hello, everyone. My name is Robertas Steponkus. I do work mostly on river connectivity in Lithuanian Fund for Nature. And I think Antanas from Klaipėda University will join in half an hour, which also work on migratory fishes a lot.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes.
Nice to meet you, Artur Furdyna from Poland. I am representing currently Green Federation Gaia, CCB of course, and TPREG, so some environmental NGO, but I am also working as a consultant for Regional Directorate of Environment Conservation during the Live Drava project. You have, some of you maybe you have seen during River University.
Yeah.
And also currently I am working for our MP, Green MP, and thanks to this we are able to send some messages quicker to our parliament.
Hello everybody, I'm Nina Palutskaya. I'm director of NGO Friends of Neman. We work under the salmon protection in the Vilja River Basin. Vilja, you know, is the biggest tributary of Neman. And we work in the Vilja and tributaries, which are salmon rivers. No, that's it.
So, thank you. Then maybe there will come in some other people during the meeting here. Nils Högren will also come in within half an hour, I hope. So maybe we can start then, and maybe I can give the word to Samsa. Samsa, are you still with us? You're welcome. Yes. And we're very happy to have you with us because we planned within the project a trip to Finland last spring in 2020, but because of Corona and all this, it was not possible. So we are happy that you will give us some knowledge and experience of the work in Finland when it comes to removal and mitigation of barriers in rivers. The floor is yours, Samsa.
I can introduce myself. So I'm Samsa Hilhunen from WWF Finland. I'm the program director here, responsible of marine and freshwater issues. I have the biggest team in our conservation sector, or part of the whole office. I mean, and since we started working on dam removals and rivers, my team has grown substantially, and I think it's one of the most motivating teams I've been working in the last 15 years in this office. But I will tell you more now. Let's share the screen. And you should be able to see it soon. Okay, good. So, yes. So, something from Finland. I think in the title of the agenda, it said that from last 10 years, but we have been actually working only 3.5 years now in my office on dam removal. And I think before this, there was no one else either much working on dam removals. There was mapping of dams and barriers in Finland for a long time already, but dam removal is quite recent thing. So something about the big picture. You may be aware of this half planet kind of vision that there should be more ecosystems left in the for wildlife, for human to survive as well under the climate change and the biodiversity loss. And of course, damming rivers is one counterproductive way of then managing the nature. And there's over 1 million dams and obstacles in European waters, and with various different kind of consequences listed there in the slide. But restoration is getting more and more interest in the member states at the moment, and in the European Commission, and there is even, maybe you have heard about this, that there is a restoration directive in preparation, and the EU Green Deal targets include now the 25,000 kilometers of free-flowing rivers until 2030, which relates to dam removals quite a bit. Freshwater fish globally are quite threatened, many times forgotten. There is a brand new report from WWF, which is quite interesting. And of course, it relates to people's livelihoods and food security and everything. And again, dams have a role to play there. Even if the whole dam removal movement, I would say, comes from US, it has landed already in Europe quite well and strong, and member states are actively building down dams. And in Saloon River, some of you maybe have visited the 36-meter dam just came down, and then they are taking away the other one, the 16-meter dam, hydropower dam, that were still active when the demolition started in energy production. And then there's a big research program looking at, of course, the social consequences and ecological consequences. And the first results, I think, will come after the second one is already taken away as well. And France is the kind of the leading country in Europe, and I think Finland is now really picking up on this as well. And altogether, in last, let's say, 30 years, up to 5,000 dams have been reported to removed from Europe as well. I saw that there's someone from Estonia. I think you should be proud of Pärnu River opening several dams and 3,300 kilometers of new area for fish migration. Apparently, it's the largest river restoration project in EU history, which is nice, just next in our neighborhood. So what has happened in Finland? I think you're quite well aware maybe of our country, but a lot of lakes, thousands of rivers, almost 2,000 waterways are not in a good ecological state if you look at the Water Framework Directive point of view. and some 25,000 migration obstacles, and removed are maybe 450 so far. It started already in 70s when we were locked. There was different kind of structures for lock floating, for example, in Finland, and when that was over, then some of the structures they took away already a long time ago. When we did damming, it was of course mostly after the Second World War, and then quite suddenly and fast we also lost the biggest, for example, salmon populations that we had in Kemijoki and these kind of things. Pretty much the same thing, I think, what happened in many places. The mapping, as I told, has been very good actually in Finland. The Finnish Environmental Institute, Syke, has been doing that for decades. And we know that there's about 4,000 obsolete dam structures in Finland, that there used to be a mill or there used to be a small hydropower or whatever, and they're still there. Then another research was done just on culverts, which you see in the left corner there, not top corner, but down. And there's about 20,000 culverts that are hindering migration, exactly like in this picture, for example. Fish are not, they don't know how to jump into this kind of tube, unfortunately. And trout, especially brown trout, they are spawning in the small creeks in the upper parts of the catchments. So this is a big problem. Then we have only 221 hydropower dams that are connected to the grid, but brand new report, which is still unreleased, but will come out in a couple of weeks, actually shows that we have permits in Finland for 700 hydropower dams. And now there might be 500 more than we thought. Most of them probably don't have any energy production at all anymore, but they are definitely not connected to the grid, and that's why you couldn't find them from publicly available databases that everyone was always referring 221 hydropower dams. But anything that was off-grid, we didn't have knowledge of. This was very interesting. Then if you just look at these ones that are connected to the grid, I think the picture is pretty much the same as everywhere, that very small amount of hydropower dams or power plants produce most of the energy, and then a large number of dams and power plants produce almost no energy. So you can, for example, in Finland, we can come up with this kind of sentence that 1/3 of all the hydropower produces only 3 promille, not percent, 3 promille of electricity, but they are blocking fish migration in 11 full river systems, which means like maybe hundreds of, or maybe 100 rivers. Okay, what a little bit still on the history. Enough was enough. So when the wide destruction of rivers was happening, there was also uprisings, demonstrations in 60s especially, and early 70s. And decision makers were forced to react, and we got this Special Protection Act for free running rivers in Finland, which is quite unique. Not many countries have this. Sweden has something similar, but elsewhere our mapping shows among WWF offices that it's this is something that people would like to have in their country, but not so many have. Okay, so last free-flowing rivers are protected from hydropower, for example, in Finland since 1987. However, we already lost viability, let's say, of our migratory fish stocks, and they became endangered, and they become more endangered every time that there is a new Red Book of Species in Finland. And in the Red Book of Species, dams are listed as the main cause for the poor conservation status for migratory fish species. So there is a very good reason for us to work on this issue. And I urge you to look at your Red Book of Species. What is how many fish species you have endangered, and what is the cause for the poor conservation status? This gives very strong arguments for your work. But there was a new start for a new area, and the whole 2010 decade has been very important. We got our national fish waste strategy. Then we got full protection by law for all wild stocks of critically endangered fish, for example, landlocked salmon and sea trout. So all fishing banned if the individual is wild born. And not many countries have this, but I urge you also to maybe start advocating something like this to your country. It's very good. And of course, it doesn't mean anything if you don't get then penalized from taking this kind of fish. And so in 2019 we got new legislation where there's a conservation value also for these endangered fish. And for example, landlocked salmon, here is brown trout, but anyway, landlocked salmon, if you take one and kill it, you will have to pay confiscate to the state more than 7,500 euro, and the fine on top of that as well. So
For one fish.
They are left alone pretty much at the moment. And then last two governments have had their eyes on rivers in a positive way. And so migratory fish species have been listed as a strategical priority for governmental programs since 2015. We got new Private Roads Act that you can only get the public funding for road projects that allow free passage of aquatic wildlife. And so you have to have this kind of culvert, which is in a lower picture, if you want to get public support to your road construction. This was a big thing. What about near future then? Maybe you have heard this news, but Finland included dam removal specifically to our new national policy or a governmental program. So this happened after the last election. We did a lot of advocacy work. I would say like 1.5 years we advocated this, and we got it explicitly mentioned there. There is the urge to use 18 million euros in 4 years for dam removals. They have already decided on 14 million, so still 4 million we are trying to advocate more, and I think we will get it. There will be a change in the Water Act and revisiting permits of large hydropower plants and so forth. And at the same time, we also got rid of the subsidies. So there have been 2 types of subsidies for hydropower, and if you don't get rid of these, then you will find that you're in a very funny situation where you're actually supporting more hydropower, or for example, retrofitting hydropower, and at the same time you are supporting removals, and this would be really stupid. So actually we got rid of these both. Again, lots of advocacy work behind that. And there's no turning back, which means that the citizens really are for dam removal in Finland. More than 70% are saying that even active hydropower dams that are insignificant for energy production should be removed in order to improve migratory fish stocks. I think the same number around Europe is about 10%. So we have done something right. I think in Finland it's more than 70% already. And you can see a change of 10% almost in 1 year from 2018 to 2019. We haven't done it since, but I think it's even higher now. So what we are doing, we have secured a lot of funding, of course, for our work, and then grown from 1 person to 6 people just for the freshwater program. And we got lots of money from private people as well. And we put all this money into field work and actual dam removals. And of course, we need people to do that. In last 3.5 years, we have removed together with several partners, of course, always also state officials, 35 migration obstacles, and open 700 kilometers for free migration. Sometimes you open only 2 kilometers, but you have a pristine environment above the dam, or you can open, for example, 62 kilometers in one removal, like we did. I think the most important actually has been the direct contact and contacting, just picking up the phone, and then you get collaborators across the country. So you can't do this work on a computer. You have to meet people. Unfortunately, COVID, of course, is a little bit restricting this, but still we are working full steam, I would say, at the moment even. But we have a long list of kind of instances that we are collaborating, and this is how it happens. You know, you have to have a local support for the removal, and usually you get it. And also municipalities and cities and state, of course, are very good bodies to collaborate with. Media we have used a lot. I think the whole thing started with Damnation movie that we did Finnish subtitles, and we organized big screenings across the country and panel discussions afterwards. And the whole movement in Finland, I would say, started from this Damnation movie. We had a TV ad It was called Mating Belongs to All. So it was really on TV channels for 1 full month. And it showed kind of what would it look like if humans would try to get to spawn in a river, and then there would be a dam. It doesn't. You would have to see the whole thing, but it basically the whole Finnish population after this they realized that the dams are a problem. And we got even dam removal and dams in Donald Duck, which is we say in Finland that if something is in the Donald Duck, it's mainstream. So you can say that dam removal is mainstream already in Finland. We also made our own full movie documentaries called Concrete Reasons about the destructive history of hydropower in Finland and the current state as well. Advocacy work I mentioned, we posted, for example, DVDs of this damnation movie to each and every member of the parliament with a letter, of course, in there. We took this as a main topic for our advocacy work in the parliament elections. I think it's a great opportunity. People are usually afraid of parliament elections because things can change, but not maybe for the worse. You can also do something for the rivers that is better. For example, get dam removal mentioned in a governmental program. We hosted the seminar just on dam removal in Finnish parliament. So we got all the leaders of each political party to react to this our call on dam removal, and the rest is in a way history. A few more things for a Finnish. I used already 15 minutes. That size doesn't matter. So start from the small ones. They are for fish, as you know, they can be equally important and destructive for their migration as the big ones. So we started small and we're moving to bigger ones all the time. You get lots of publicity, especially in the local media of this, and even when you put all together, you can get, I mean, national media to react to this as well. People really love restoring. It seems, you know, it's very good. And migration obstacles can also be bypassed, even though we love dam removal. Sometimes it's, for example, museum things that restrict removal of a dam, and then you have to bypass it. But we never may pay for any technical kind of ladders or concrete things. It has to be nature-like. But it works very well, at least these ones that we have been taking. Then plenty for more coming in the future, bigger ones all the time, and we are even moving into the active hydropower plants. Here is some negotiation that is ongoing of very nice and wild river that has one quite small hydropower, and negotiations are with the owner to get rid of this as well. And you will hear maybe about it in 1 week's time. And other important measures you can't forget in the catchment. So we are also building wetlands and also restoring spawning pits and these kind of things. That dam removal, unfortunately, is maybe not enough. You have to do also other measures for water quality and such. But we are happy to do those, and we get nice funding from EU and from government especially, and private people. So all in all, I think the topic has been very motivating, and it's amazing actually to work on this, and you see the results right away. Sometimes the first fish are already migrating to the new open areas while we are removing the dams. So that's it. Thank you for your interest. Any questions? We have maybe 3 minutes. Thank you.
So thank you, Sampsa. I think it's very encouraging for all of us to listen about the Finnish experience. One question I have to you, you mentioned this video or film you have produced. Is that one available, and can you send us a link? Is it only in Finnish or is it in English? Or
it has English subtitles.
Okay.
So, and it's in Vimeo, if you know Vimeo, not YouTube, but there is this Vimeo. I can maybe send, but it's available there. I think it costs like €4.50 or something to see it, or you can download it with €9 and then you can watch it as much as you want. But it's quite a nice movie, I would say. It's a full documentary, and of course it's about Finnish situation, but the same way as we were watching the damnation from US, your own brain starts to work and figure out maybe we can do this in our own country and so forth. So I will send you, Gunnar, the link, and then you can spread it. And I will also send a link to that TV ad, because that was, I think, the key to everything, that we are living in a populist world, which means that if you get media interested and you get citizens interested of something, then the decision makers will follow. So I think the TV ad was very helpful, and I will send a link to that as well.
Thank you very much for that.
You can contact me anytime. I mean, you can call me. You can find my details, of course, in the internet. There's no one else with the same name, fortunately, in the world. So type Sampsa Vilhunen and it's me, and then you can call me and ask any concrete questions or whatever. I'm happy to help you in your cause. So again, thank you for the invitation.
Thank you, Sampsa, very much then for providing your experience to us. Okay, then we go on in the agenda, and I can see here we ask Robertas.
Do you see the screen?
Yes, I can see.
Do you hear me? Okay, so I'll present actually what is happening or what has been happening during the project time in Lithuania. There have been quite a few changes regarding a hydropower plant and in general attitude towards dams. During this time, the first dam in Lithuania has been demolished near Vilnius. It's a quite small one, obsolete one, but still it's the first one that was taken down. Okay, so under some other projects, we have made some inventorization of salmonid rivers, or say important rivers for migrating fishes, and especially in Western Lithuania next to the Baltic Sea. So what we did, well, initial those inventorizations, we looked at all the possible obstacles for migration. So it's of course natural one, beaver dams, which we can consider as part of nature, and maybe it's as they tend to be washed away with bigger floods and really rebuild after some time. So, well, it's like a natural thing which maybe we should not deal with that much with. Of course, we have other good examples of natural ones. It's Ventos Rumba, a natural waterfall, which works quite well if the water is low. It's in Kuldiga. And in autumn time, it's possible to go there to go to sea for jumping fishes, especially wimber bream there. Sometimes we manage to migrate there. And of course, well, we have some different type of identified different type of mixed nature of obstacles. As there is quite big lack of information in Lithuania for dams and their state, we have quite a few of already not demolished, but degraded, and the dams that already has been washed away or partly washed away by floods and, well, just in general by time. And as you see, those are 3 examples of salmonid rivers. We have Old Dam, and usually Old Dam is the ideal place for beaver family or a few families to settle down. So they, as if everything, the time did what it is meant to do, to demolish the dam, but the beavers successfully restore, all the work that has been done by the river. So it's quite tricky in this place. Of course, we have very nice examples of man-made obstacles. So that was made in 19th century and 18th century. Of course, culverts is also a big problem, which has never been looked into in Lithuania. And well, it's more or less still quite moderate example, but there are some such culverts that are half a meter above the water level. So of course, it's a really big obstacle for migration. And of course, we have quite a lot of those of, how to say, illegal nature, which is just done by local habitants, or even you cannot say who did it because they are in such desolate or remote places that it's impossible to identify even who made that. Of course, some of them look quite good, but still there are quite big migration obstacles. Of course, another type of obstacle that we identified because we were working more or less with lampreys. So there's some dysfunctional fish gliders that obstruct migration of maybe not of salmonid species, but of other migratory species. So we use lamprey as a baseline for fish migration. And currently we do have, this is the map of all the dams that are known in Lithuania. It's 1,200, about 100,000 dams. We expect to be at 2 or 3 times as much if we would count all the dams. So, well, in regards to these findings, now there have been some, okay, maybe more or less what is still lacking. Sorry for Lithuanian text. I didn't notice that, just now noticed that it's untranslated. So what we have in Lithuania, a lack of detailed information of artificial migration obstacles, especially dams, obsolete dams and weirs. Lack of information of state of these dams. So the dam could still be in this list, official list, but it could have been already washed away some 3, 4, 5 years ago. And what we also lack maybe the most, which would help to talk with politicians, is cost benefit and social economic analysis that would let us to show what just to have a scale the benefits of demolishing the dams, or at least some of them. And of course, this also gets into one very narrow strip, that we have no necessary information for strategic planning of improvement of our river ecological status without socio-economic, without observable or significant socio-economic impact. So what has been happening lately in Lithuania? So there has been established a strategic change group under Ministry of Environment. In this group, there's one lady, special designated officer, which specifically work with dam impacts and reduction of the impacts. So let's say removal of impact. Now we had just a few months ago new change of minister and all the management personnel, and the ones that are now in power seems very active in dam removal. Of course, very much what's also helping us at the moment is that there has last autumn the subsidies for the hydropower has ended, and we see a very very intensive lobbying from the hydropower industry to change it with some other kind of subsidies for public services as management of floods and so on. So, well, we also counter lobby that very much. So, and what are the plans for the future? So, in the very short time, there should be a launch in nationwide inventarization of all dams, and so there should be collected and synthesized information of all available dams and obstacles in Lithuania. Of course, there will be performed cost-benefit analysis on those dams, especially that hold small hydropower plants, because they're usually the ones who are doing the biggest impact on fish migrations. Collect, of course, one of the tasks will be to collect information of dams that are present in salmonid rivers or potential rivers for salmonid spawning, and there will be a need to produce recommendation for removal of that. And the very concrete step, it will be inventory delivery of prioritized list of rivers, or maybe let's say not the rivers but concrete dams that would have the biggest environmental impact and the least social economic impact. So, you know, to have those low-hanging fruits. And I believe, oh, that's already for some next question that we'll discuss how we propose to identify those most important dams in the region. We have a few approaches there, but I think there will be some question that we'll discuss if I'm right, Gunnar, on this.
Okay, you are finalized, or?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Robertas. Can I have a question to you first? As I understand now, when it comes to European Union and the water framework, you know, there has been different, you know, periods of updating and reporting about the implementation then of river basin management plans and so on. As I understand, I mean, the Commission also now put more pressure then on EU member states that we should have to, for the heavily modified water bodies, to have to do something for better biodiversity in the rivers. So it's of course interesting to see this policy development. And I wonder now, Robertas, is the work now that this invent, the work with the Minister of Environment in Lithuania, is that because of that they have pressure on Lithuania from the European Union then when it comes to implementation of Water Framework Directive? Is that the reason why they have started this?
A few factors. One of them, yes, there is that push from the European Commission, because we are lagging with implementation of Water Framework Directive and basin management plans, updates of management plans, and so on. And the other factor is that there have been much more public engagement in this issue and push from the public.
That sounds encouraging. Any other questions?
Hello, everyone. Nils here. Sorry for being very late. I was in another meeting, of course. These days, you jump to meetings like a time traveler. It's fantastic. Yeah, I saw the last part of your presentation. Thanks so much. I just wanted to reflect the part on the regional discussion we're having in this HELCOM work on updating the Baltic Sea Action Plan. Dam removals and highlighting and prioritizing first the inventory work and then highlighting the priority dams to be removed is still an accepted action that is in the discussion so far. The member states have accepted this approach by us to do this as a joint approach. So everyone needs to do it, and not just for salmonids, but also and especially maybe for eels, because eel, as you know, also connects to the entire southern part of the Baltic more than sometimes salmon does, because it's not present everywhere. So that means that all countries have to do this type of categorization and cataloging of obsolete dams and hydropower stations, and then do this kind of prioritization list and now highlighting also eel. It used to be mostly of salmonid. So that's a potential added and extra support to this ambition going on in Lithuania, so it can be spread elsewhere, because it's good that we get this done. Thanks. So it was a comment rather than a question. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Nils. Any other? If not, go on according to the agenda. And then I would ask Nils to say something about development of the situation of dam removal in Sweden with the new policy and legislation. Please, Nils. Can I ask Robertas also, can you please send your presentation to me?
I suppose you should have received by now.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I will just make a short presentation on the recent changes that's taken place in Sweden. And why is this interesting to any one of you? Well, it is potentially a very good way forward to address a lot of the existing dams or bad old structures out there, but there are concerns as well. But anyway, it's a new, to use a very popular term these days, a new deal a little bit for the hydropower in Sweden, because as you know, we have most likely well over 2,000 hydropower dams or dams that have been used for hydropower, and it's a massive amount compared to many others. So if it could work in Sweden, it could potentially be interesting for others. So what's new, or what's the deal here? Let me see if I can now do this, because it seems to crash when I try, but let me try it, and here we go. So in 2019, the decision was made to open up and change the regulation we have detailing what's called water activities that encompasses hydropower in Sweden. And what was agreed in an interparliamentarian way, meaning all parties were sort of on board with it, was that every single hydropower station permit in the country needs to be remade, reassessed. Why? Well, this is a long-standing conflict where we have some hydropower stations. They don't even have a permit because it has been some kind of dam there since 1600 and when Jesus was a kid. So it's simply an old structure that was never tried in a court. They just simply rebuilt, and all of a sudden they built a big dam, and it was a hydropower station sometime down in 1920s or something. All the way up to dams and hydropower stations that were built, well, fairly recently. In the 80s, we still had some new construction going on. That this law now says all these stations must be reassessed, and they must be issued new permits according to the current environmental legislation. This sounds very, of course, this is obvious, but it's not, because in the Swedish case, and I think also in many of your cases in the countries around the Baltic, the permits are given, and they're not sort of given for 10 years or whatever. They're given once and under the law that was valid at the time. But what this means is that all stations need to be reassessed, and they need to be reassessed according to current legislation standards, meaning they have to meet the requirements of the Water Framework Directive or other national or international regulations. This is a big thing, and this is sort of made in one stroke a huge impact in the industry in Sweden, because this, as you can understand, when you have 2,000 stations, is a fairly big job. But it is positive that we actually now will have permits, and they will be up to standards. Okay, another part of this legislation, and this is to address this problem of yeah, okay. My computer is just doing things. I'm going to speak quickly before it crashes again. To be able to do so many dams and so many things at the same, in time, basically, and to be smart about, the fact that one dam in a river can be followed by another one downstream. They have now put together a system where you can try permits or dams in groups. So you get some kind of an ecological smart thinking from the start to the bottom. So you don't do something great up there, but do nothing very close to the sea, because that's kind of pointless, right? So they have made it possible now to try in court these permits and dams in groups. So either is part of river stretches or small, creeks and things like that, or entire river systems. And this is now being planned and considered for a best way to do it. And by 2022, the planning for this process that started basically in 2019 will have to be concluded, and they will have to start. So in 2022, they're going to start. So these modern requirements, as you can understand, of course, need to meet the ecological and chemical status requirements of Water Framework Directive, but also others, international agreements such as for the EEL and others. So requirements that are put on dams in these new permits can be, of course, that the dam is still allowed, it's still going to be there, but they have to have mitigation measures in place. They must have a minimum amount of water to run by it, and they must have a proper bypass for up and downstream migration, etc., etc. In many cases, these requirements will be so strict or hard to meet that there's simply not an economically viable situation to continue operating the dam, where the dam owner then can simply just say, okay, but this is not going to happen. So they will choose instead to remove the dam. And everyone's then saying, okay, but no hydropower station owner wants to remove its dam. I mean, just like that, just because we say so. They usually protest. For this reason, a very big fund was created. It's called, well, you have the link there, but anyway, it was founded in 2019, and it's built up of mainly the big producers that we have today, the 8 largest ones. And they have or will put into this fund around 1 billion euros. That amount is then to be used for what I said earlier, either mitigation measures or all the way to the dam removal. With the case of funding, the financing can be both on the measures in themselves, but also the procedural, the court cost, the expertise, the impact assessments that must be done, etc., and can be covered up to 85%. That's the deal. But it's very clearly stated that the fund cannot be used, or the money can't be used, if a hydropower station owner, for example, simply wants to remove it because they don't want to, do this restructuring of the dam or making these. If the requirements say, well, you don't have to remove the dam, you can just do this because there's no real, ecological value. There's no yield. There's no, there's nothing here that must be addressed because it's pointless or whatever. Then the fund will not support that. So that's a bit of a worry there, but we don't know yet how this will actually play out. And here's the key. So if they choose to do this sort of removal of the dam owner can get compensation for 95% of the loss in the production that they will suffer. And I don't have the exact tool for calculating it. I mean, obviously it's not just a year's loss, but it's counted on a number of years loss. And that amount is then weighed against the cost for mitigation and new impact assessment and expert work, all these things. And if you get sort of a minus end result, the most likely option is that the dam owner will choose basically to remove it and take this kind of buyout money up to 95% of the production. This part, the fund creation, what it can cover, both expenses for preparing for a trial and new permit, but also mitigation measures, and this 95% coverage of production loss. I think those are the key elements that could actually make this work. There can be, from our perspective, a very win-win situation with the dam owner and for us wanting to remove the dam and making sure that the river system has reconnected and open again. Like I said, the timeline is starting by 2022, and it's foreseen to take 20 years. I don't think it will take 20 years. I think it will take more to cover all dams, but we might be, and this is what everyone is working on again, a little bit to what Roberta said, prioritizing, finding key areas that we need to address first. That's what's going on, and that's what needs to be pushed by NGOs and sometimes also local governments and local interests come in here because they really want their salmon or sea trout or whatever back. So there's an interesting process going on this now. But of course, this sounds very good, doesn't it? Or at least parts of it sounds very good. There are problems, there are problems. And let me see if I can, there is a limitation of what this system is meant to do. The total removal of energy production it's stated cannot be larger than 1.5 terawatt hours. This may sound like it's like a rubber rule or whatever, but I think this is a very concrete and strict rule. It will be limited to this. This in a way means that if we remove 2 big dams, the whole system shuts down. I mean, then everything is met. The ceiling is reached. I don't think that's going to happen, but this is a problem. And this is not weighed against other values or interests, and that's a huge issue. I said it already that this thing where it says you can't require money from the fund if you want to remove or do mitigation measures that's going beyond what's required, really. Again, this can be a problem. How do we weigh these issues of what's required and what the court in the end will actually put as requirements will make this problematic, I think. But that this might be a little bit more smaller problem. It's not a problem necessarily, but just to understand, we always talk about polluters pays principles. These guys have not paid their dues. They have not paid for all the eel they have killed, all the sea trout and salmon they have hindered to go upstream or killed going downstream. They need to pay. The system of them providing money for the fund sounds good, but I mean, hey, they also get tax breaks. So basically, it's the usual thing. It's the taxpayers that pay for it, and the polluter pays principle is, it looks like it's there, but it's kind of not. So, long time. Like I said, that's a caveat. We don't know, but we hope to be able to push for prioritization of these things, and I hope the national Swedish NGOs are really on top of this. This is the final one, and it's going to be interesting. No, it's not the final one. I have 2 more, actually. But anyway, there is an outspoken, basically, will, desire, or even an aim of this whole process to maximize the use of allowed, derogations in the legislation. So they will look actively for loopholes, basically. Again, something that NGOs and others that want to see these changes must be on their toes about. But it's the funniest thing how this is worded in some of the supporting documents and its explanation documents for hydropower station owners and so on. That you have to maximize the possibility of trying to get out of all this. They still have to have a new permit. They must go to court. So it's not that, but it's about the mitigation measures or to be forced to remove the dam or not. That's where they will use loopholes. So even with these problems, there will be a retrial of these permits, and we will see improvements in the water quality and for fish. That I think that's quite clear. It is just a question of will the right dams be removed or not, and so on. You understand the normal back and forth, but it is a positive. 2 final things. That this has been something that's been discussed and angered a lot of NGOs, that a lot of these old dams, as I mentioned earlier, in a way, they have now become legal. They have now become allowed, because that was contended and could be contended legally before, can't be contended anymore. They are now all existing dams that need a new permit, and they are as such kind of allowed. This may sound strange to you, but it's a very long-standing legal dispute in Sweden. Oh yeah, I guess I again noted the 20 years problem here, because we obviously understand we live in a legal state where you can appeal a court decision, and you can appeal it twice. So, you know, there's that issue of prolonging this and combine it with using derogations in the maximum extent to try and get out of this, and you know, this stalling via using this appeal probably means that this will take a longer time. But to summarize, it is very good and attractive that all dams must be retried. They must meet modern requirements, meaning, you know, all the things we all work with and hold important. That has to take place. There is a fund to support these things, and the fund even allows for the dam owner to take a buyout amount of money, and the dam is torn down. There are all these caveats and problems that we probably will see, but as a whole, I am more positive than I am negative. I think this is a way to get somewhere, because currently it's a standstill. You know, we don't really, we see some dams removed here and some measures done here. Here we will see a possibility of huge efforts in entire river systems that we then as NGOs can then push for. And a final note is, I think some elements of this plan, this fund for restructuring, this idea of looking at many dams at once, that's something that could be exported, and we could use as arguments, as arguments as NGOs in other countries, and say, this is a smart way of doing it. It makes sense from an ecologic point of view, and it makes sense from a financial point of view. You already have machinery, things in place in the river system, so you can just go to the next dam and adjust and address that dam, etc. So Gunnar, that wasn't very short, but it was still the points made on the Swedish current updated situation, and it's exciting. It's starting basically now.
Okay, thank you, Nils. I think then that if we look on the agenda now again, next would be then point number 8, and that means presentations of criteria, arguments for a national ranking priorities proposal of various removal mitigation, where I would like you in the project, each country, to present something for 5 to 10 minutes. First, I would like to ask you if you have any question on Nils' presentation. Please take the chance to put up a question.
Dear Nils, if I understood correctly, in Sweden now you will have this new time for the new permission for the hydropower stations, or?
How do you mean it? That how long the new permissions will be given for, or what do you mean? Yeah. Good question. Obviously very relevant. I actually don't have a good answer. I think the normal standards would apply and by normal I mean, you know, a review of permits that exists also for other activities that exists, that permits aren't given forever. But in this case, especially the larger hydropower stations, I think there are levels in this system where they have different classes of stations and hydropower stations. So the big ones, obviously, they will always have a special, you know, thing. And I think in those cases, the permits that will be new will be for a long time. They will be sort of valid for a very long time. Nothing will be ever again given forever, because we have some of those currently. They are like forever, but that's not going to happen. But they will be long. But I mean, hopefully, addressing some of these key issues. I mean, we have one Umeälven, a very big, as you know, and also a salmon river of great potential, or it used to be. There is actually a huge river stretch that could be utilized for natural spawning downstream the dam that just needs water. So if they can just open more water to that dam constantly over the year, it would be a ridiculously great habitat for spawning, and you know, so that's like a super simple thing. But because we're talking about the Ume River, those terawatt hours, the loss of water, meaning loss of energy, will quickly amount. You know, that will cost in this system a lot. So yeah, good and bad things are coming with this system. But I think the permits will be granted for a long time, but not forever. I mean, that's not going to happen. And in the shorter, smaller cases, smaller dams, it might be different, that it needs to have an evaluation clause, whether mitigation is working or not. Yeah, I don't have a better answer than that. Yeah.
I have a comment to you here on this.
Yeah.
As I understand, in United States, as I read for a couple of years ago, I think they give permits about 20, 25 years.
Yeah.
And then you have to have a new permit again.
Yeah.
So you can redo the requirement, update requirements on environmental legislation or whatever.
Yeah.
So that might be an interesting.
Yeah. No, but it's a number. It's a number that's in here, that's been discussed. It's 25 years that it's, yeah. Yeah, in a way, that's not relevant, or the most relevant. What is better than to say, sure, you have your permit until further notice, so to speak. I mean, it would be better to address the problem at hand and you know, see, does the measures that were put in place, do the measures put in place work? If they don't work, you have to do something else, you know, or, you know, there needs to be a functionality demand of these measures, not just okay, you have a salmon ladder thing, that's good enough. That's what we've had, kind of, and no requirements on functionality and restoration of it and making sure it, you know, this is what needs to be very clear. And I think that's modern requirements. But again, we haven't seen a single court case yet, so we don't know exactly what shape and form this will take. But yeah, like I said, I think especially this fund is something that should be addressed in many or all of our countries. Say that, you know, you need to put aside money, you know, for this type of process to update and upgrade your dams, not just for safety requirements, etc., but also for these mitigation measures. I think that's something we should all push for very strongly, and say this is just implementing a polluter pays principle. Period. You know, here's Sweden; they're doing it like that. Okay, so why can't we?
I think also one important thing here with this, and what we learned from experience of just having requirement of fish ladder but no functioning qualities, is that, for example, if you put up a requirement that say that at least then 90% of all fish that comes up to the dam and or to where the fish way starts have to migrate through. And if a company cannot fulfill, it has to be monitored by scientists, of course. If you cannot fulfill it, you have to reconstruct the fauna passage until you reach such a goal.
Yeah.
Very strong, precise, functioning goals for fauna passage, I think.
Yeah, yeah. No, along those lines, maybe, but you have to understand, and I think maybe Antanas, you can comment on this, but I mean, we have naturally a situation where females or whatever come to waterfalls or whatever, and they are either too late or you know, they can turn around and go out also in free flowing river systems. So to set such a demand would be like, you have to like whip the fish to, oh, come on, swim now, you know. We can't really do that sometimes, but this occurs naturally. I mean, that fish turn around because of stressors of temperature and, you know, because they come too late. So, but I get your point. I mean, some way to evaluate it better than we have today is for sure a requirement that we should push for.
Okay, Antanas, more
no comments. That's a good answer. But of course, naturally, if it's a waterfall or of something more, something like that, some barrier for the migration, the fish usually how much they maybe 10 times could go till this barrier, and then they disappeared if there's no spawning places below the dam.
Yeah. No, but yeah, there are ways to have these requirements in place, and I mean, we have so much experience now of these fauna passages that are more nature-like, as we all know, these more like river-like passages, or utilizing the old river stretches and things like this. So I think we have good knowledge, and also regarding eel, for example, we have good knowledge on upstream and downstream migration. These are very costly mitigation measures. And in more important rivers where we might have many smaller stations, I would hope that the hydropower station owner sees that these mitigation measures, the cost of them are simply too high, and to maintain them are too high. So they will take this bailout money, basically. And I think there's a possibility to argue for this and show in economic terms very concretely that this is a possibility. So the amount of dams that can be removed now under this new system with this payout scheme or this supporting funds, I think has greatly increased in Sweden. That's for sure.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah,
Niels.
thanks.
I think we go on the agenda then. And before we start, I would just like to remind you of, I have shared a screen with you. Can you the shared screen?
Yes.
Yeah. And you know, when we discussed here in May last year, I sent out this paper to you about ranking of potential barriers. And of course, there is different aspects to take into account. One, then, if you have point number 1 here, bottoms upstreams, that you have number 2, that you have presence, of course, that salmonid coming downstreams up to the barrier. Water quality is okay, dam owner is not against, or and dam owner have a positive interest, that the physical removal isn't too complicated. You have administration, you have support from local residents. It's not been any classification as cultural objects that made it a problem. And then the permit process, if it's a reasonable time to work with it, you know. And then financing, of course, how shall it be financed? So I would like you to say some words now about your work on the national level. You not to go into all details in your inventory, but rather than look at points where you see of interesting points, be more of interest for the whole Baltic Sea region. How it can be possibilities then for removal, or you see some interesting objects or views about this. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I will tell about the most important criteria and arguments for national ranking priorities in Russia. Firstly, we started to analyze all known hydropower plants in the Leningrad region and known obstacles on known or potential salmonid rivers around Gulf of Finland. So all of them flowing in any way or main via the main course or directly to the Gulf of Finland. And at the beginning, we had around 15 obstacles. That was revised, and then it converted to 6 obstacles. And in the end, we had only 4 priority obstacles recommended for removal from our point of view. And the most important national criteria in our case was firstly positive interest to remove of the barrier from regional governments. And I would like to say that we have a regional program for removal in case if the construction is dangerous for people or can cause the flooding. Our government, unfortunately, do not consider the obstacle for fauna and fish migration. So we have to pay attention for that, and always to say, to remind them about the importance of river ecosystems and biodiversity and fish migration. And of course, most important criteria is presence of Atlantic salmon in the river and downstream the barrier, and also occurrence of sea trout. And there should be available and appropriate spawning sites upstream the barrier for the salmon and fish. Because we had examples when upstream the dam there were only large reservoir and without any rapids and streams for salmon spawning. And also such obstacles can be valuable for removal. I mean that it's possible to apply for permission and to receive its permission from the government, because it's really complicated procedure and can take many years and require a lot of big sum of rubles and euros. And also there shouldn't be big negative interest of local residents. I mean, sometimes they have big interest to save the dam for different purposes, like using the dam as passage, or using the water pond upstream the dam for recreation, and also some dams like viewpoints for tourism, and also some of them are cultural and historical objects. And in this way, we have 4 priority dams for removing. The first is the obsolete dam of Kravtsova hydropower plants, River Seleznyovka, northern coast of the Gulf of Finland. And there are priority criteria that there is positive interest to remove the barrier from regional governments, and they already made preliminary projects for removal and received preliminary permission for removal. I mean, they already have a negotiation of projects of removal. And also there are Atlantic salmon in the river downstream the barrier. And also there are spawning sites upstream the dam. And also, as I already mentioned, the permissions are already in the process of receiving. So I would say that it's kind of hot obstacles for removal nowadays in Leningrad region. Upstream, the previous dam in the tributary of Seleznyovka River, the river Busovka. There's also ruins of former dam. Nowadays it's serious obstacles for fish migration, and there's priority criteria that also there are some permissions for removal and big interest and funding of the regional government to remove it. And also there's occurrence of sea trout, and we didn't found the fact of finding Atlantic salmon there, but we suppose that if the salmon will pass the previous barrier, then this river also upstream the dam will be a good spawning river for salmon and sea trout. And also in the river Seleznyovka, closer to the Gulf of Finland, there's dam of Kalininskaya small hydropower plants. It's obsolete construction, and it's not always the obstacle for fish migration. Only when the water level is low, then the fish are not able to go upstream this dam. And also Atlantic salmon was found there downstream, and what is important, also upstream the barrier. And there's also available spawning sites downstream and upstream the dam. And also there's also the sea trout population in this river. And we also found ruins of dam on the river Tarhanovka. It's also the northern coast of the Gulf of Finland. This dam is located close to the Finnish border. The river, as the previous rivers are transborder, they flowing from the Finland, then to Russia, and then goes to the Baltic Sea. And there's a population of sea trout and also the lamprey and eel. Atlantic salmon wasn't found there, but we suppose that potentially it can migrate to this barrier. And also on the Finnish side, there's available spawning sites for salmon fish migration. But in this case, there is no interest of government to remove this dam, and they don't have potential funding for removal. But anyway, our Finnish colleagues and we also and other NGOs consider that this dam should be removed. This dam is object for off-road tourism, as interests former Finnish dam. I don't know, should I show the ranking for these dams? It can take a long time. Well, I suppose that I should, in this point, to finish my presentation.
Okay. Thank you very much, Tatiana. Can I have one question to you? And I wonder then, if you're going to work now, or if there is, which would have the best potential then to work on them, according to the four you have put up here, when it comes to how easy related to the administration and other reasons. You have, yeah, please.
Well, I would say that you can see this Krastova hydropower plant, I mean the former hydropower plant. Government already make work for liquidation, removal, and also there's ongoing preparatory works for removal of this dam on the river Busovka. So I would say that we have to pay attention for this former Kalininskaya hydropower plant dam, because governments say that they are not going to remove this dam. But anyway, this construction is dangerous for crossing of people because it's very old. And there's also such kind of solution as building bottom dam before this construction to rise the water level. And then we will have all year sustainable water level that will provide like permanent crossing by fish of this dam. And also we have to remind about this Andreevskaya dam to government, because it seems that they don't have any plans for them and no interest.
Okay, thank you.
And I would also say that maybe for this case, we can also propose maybe additional funding for our government to remove the dam. For example, our Finnish colleagues from Regional Center for Economic Development, Transport and Environment, they already proposed some funding. They said, we are ready to give money, but for physical removal of the dam, because we know how long it can take to receive the permission for removal. So if the dam will be ready for removal, then they're ready to provide some funding. And maybe we can also search some funding in other sources to, let's say, to fasten the removal, and
Okay.
also to build some really good spawning sites there.
Okay, thank you, Tatiana. If no other comments, we will go on and ask in Estonia.
Hi, everybody. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, I can see it.
Yes, it's good.
Well, I'm trying to keep it short. Here in Estonia, we have been kind of stuck in a political sense because our last Minister of Environment was not happy about dam removal at all. So nothing really happened. But now we have a new minister, so things can only improve. So this is a map of Estonian salmon rivers in the Gulf of Finland, and those green arrows show the largest problem sites. This number 3 river Kunda has one of the last native salmon population just below the lowermost dam. And those 3 dams on the lower part of the river are nationally most important dams. And that number 7 is the river Jägala, which also used to have a quite significant salmon population. And it has a big dam at the river mouth, which has ruined the river for the all migratory fish. And those are the main dams prioritized in this project. So the Kunda is actually, in a natural sense, quite good salmon river, sea trout river, lamprey river. It has grayling and it has lots of spring water, so in its natural conditions are quite favorable. But there are 3 quite large dams at the river mouth. None of them are operational anymore, but they are kind of difficult to get rid of because local county somehow wishes to keep those. And this process is stuck, but foremostly because there was no political support, nothing really happened during the last year. And those 3 dams are clearly by far the most critical dams in our country that has remained an issue for fish. Then there is this Jägala Dam. It's the biggest operational hydropower station. It's 11 meters high, but it's really small compared to other actual hydropower stations in other countries. The capacity is just 1 megawatt, so it's really nothing in terms of power production. And there's no point of building a fish pass there because the dam has ruined most of the historical habitat. It creates a big lake, so this downstream migration through the lake would also be problematic. And our view is that we aim to remove it, and if it takes time, then okay, so be it, but we will not build a fish pass or suggest to build a fish pass there. Either we keep it or remove it. So the next dams are such small old dams on small rivers or upper parts of the rivers, which are problem mostly for sea trout and lampreys. And those dams look like this, not used. So there's the value, those are a lot more easier to be removed, but the potential value for fish population is of course smaller. So those are easier but less important sites. And the further we go, there's a dam on River Purtse. This one is also a problem for Atlantic salmon. Salmon reaches this dam and spawns below it. And there's some habitat upstream from this dam also. And another old concrete dam used for irrigation, but not used anymore, but as usual, it's left like this. And another such a lake dam that creates a small lake on a sea trout stream. But the condition of this dam is also quite bad. So in theory, it should be easy to remove it in the future. And the final one is like this on below a bridge, and sea trout reaches this site. So in terms of prioritizing, we have offered 10 dams in this project to kind of show to be removed. And this is it for my part. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Martin. Can I have one question?
Yeah.
I'm thinking now to the south of Estonia, to Pärnu River.
Yeah.
Last year you removed the Sindi Dam.
Yeah.
And then you opened up a great river basin with many tributaries. And as I understand, also in these tributaries, you have dams in Pärnu River. So I can have them being monitored or see potential then that you have upstreams such existing barriers, good potential spawning areas for sea trout, maybe for salmon.
Yeah, we have mapped the Pärnu River basin just a few years ago. And during the same project that removed the Sindi Dam, 2 smaller dams were also removed at the middle part of the river. And right now, nearly all potential spawning areas for salmon are accessible. But for sea trout in the tributaries, yes, there are many small dams throughout the watershed. So there is some work to do, but in general, Pärnu has a good situation right now. And last year we caught salmon par 15 kilometers upstream from the Sindi Dam. So salmon is spawning upstream of the Sindi Dam, old site. But we don't know how quickly the salmon population is able to recover. The actual small production is still quite far from the potential. It probably takes another decade, but we are monitoring the river.
Okay.
So I have a question, Gunnar.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, well, perhaps many actually. Thanks, Martin, for this very interesting stuff. Some of these things, of course, are known to us, but it was slightly unknown to me that the Kunda situation, I thought those were operational. They're not operational.
They used to be, but they have lost their water permit. So now, right now, none of those have any water permit anymore.
But I mean, and okay, so here we're basically talking about local community or local politicians or whatever that are the obstacle to the obstacle.
Yeah, and the owner have hopes to restore power production someday, but and during the past year when we did not have political support, that was one of our worries, that if things happen, they can only happen into bad direction, but luckily it didn't happen.
But so this seems to be a funding situation. I mean, also the hydropower station owner hoping to get something back and potentially getting some revenue or funding this. I mean, you talked. Did you say a complete installed effect of 1 megawatt, or was it just a one, or was it all of it?
This one is 1 megawatt.
Oh, sorry. Yes, you're right. That we will come back to. But about Kunda, what is then?
These are even smaller.
They're even smaller.
Yeah.
I mean, we are basically now talking about not even a half of a windmill now.
Yeah.
The current installed windmills are on average 3 to 4 megawatts. Okay, we know it's different because the wind isn't always, but still, one normal sized windmill would actually then replace all of those, Kunda as well as the other one.
We have really small rivers, so this hydropower potential is nothing.
So I think there's the case to be made here, and then to find ways to move forward with potentially involving the hydropower owner in installing a new windmill then in close by, or perhaps on the coast.
Yeah, we have we make good cooperation with the fisheries department in the Ministry of Environment.
Indeed, yes.
And this basic model that we buy. The Ministry of Environment buys the dam, and then is free to do whatever they want with it. Is that like the easiest way to move forward?
Yeah.
This Sindhi dam was bought by the government, and upstream from the Sindhi, one small culturally valuable dam was also bought, and part of it was removed, and the remaining part was kind of conserved, so that is visible, and
of course, that's the way to do it. Okay, I won't prolong this. I understand the situation. I know there are also very useful EU funds that could be tapped into, for example, for this, but it seems very obvious that this these two actually, sure, but and then especially the one with 1 megawatt installed power, I mean, Christ's sake. It's okay, I won't. Thanks.
Can I add just a question?
Sure.
Is there a process then with the Ministry of Environment to try out the dam rights in Kunda?
There is, but it was for a year. It was almost frozen because the ministers changed, and this previous one it was not his thing. He did not push for it, and he kind of said that it's this Linnamäe 1.1 megawatt dam is still valuable, and it's green energy, and in that situation it's very hard to do something. You do it against the flow of the political direction. But right now, there's a new guy in the ministry, so we can proceed probably, and I'm pretty hopeful about this.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, thank you very much, Martin, again. Shall we leave Estonia and go for Latvia?
Yeah.
And ask Aldis?
Hello to everyone. I am Aldis Auziņš from Latvia, an environmental protection club that is the oldest an environmental organization in Latvia. And I am working with Andris Urtāns, who also is here. And I will little to introduce you with our work. I will literally touch with our problems and our dams. I will start with this picture. Here is our expert seminar that was held last year, February, in Jūrmala in our greenhouse. And here scientists and representatives of ministries, institutions, municipalities, and fishermen and public organizations came together, and we made decisions for this obstacle, this dam list. This was a very good meeting. And the first in our list of barriers to be destroyed is remains of Staidzele Dam on the river Salaca. Salaca is one of the main salmon rivers in Baltic Sea, and that is why this is a very important object. But we have no very good plan how to solve this problem due this local due the owner's position. But the recently owners want to talk with government, with us. But it is still some days ago they called to one of environmentalists and told that they want to talk with them. And some fishes, some salmons can go through these remains, but here is needed better fish road, of course. Or the best is to demolish this old dam, but as I told, the owner's problem. Owners don't want to allow and ask very much money. But we are in discussing in talks now. Second is Ropaži HPP dam on the river Lielā Jūgla. Here is sea trout population, and also scientists have mapped areas upper this barrier, and there is spawning grounds. And here is a very good situation because local community of local inhabitants and as well as municipality supports our struggle to make here a fish road, and they are very active. They even organized the local association of these makers of fish road. This is a salmon river, not salmon, but sea trout river. Maybe also salmons here is, but not many. Next is also HPP small hydropower station on the river Maza-Jugla. And both rivers, Maza and Liela Jugla, is in the Daugava basin. And Daugava is the main salmon river in Latvia, but due to these very big hydropower stations on Daugava, now salmons don't go in Daugava. But this is a Daugava basin river, and also very important. And here also the sea trout is going, and also these spawning areas have found by scientists is scientific works. These spawning grounds are mapped, and here we are in process of negotiations with owners. In Latvia, you see, we have no great support of destroying these barriers. We rather are oriented to make fish pathways. Next is this is a Vaive mill barrier. Here is no hydropower station, and this is a Gauja basin. Here also is sea trout. This is sea trout river, and there is a spawning grounds upstreams, but here has no made scientific investigations, and these places are not mapped by scientists, but we have very many fishermen that testimony that there is really, this is sea trout. There is sea trout spawning grounds, and for this place also we have very big support of local inhabitants, and now and even from owner. But here is two owners, and one owner don't want to make this fish path, and another owner want to do it, and so we have to solve this conflict. And if it will be done, then also local businessmen will finance this fish path. Fifth is HPP dam on Mandegas on the river Age. This is salmon and sea trout river, but this obstacle is these fishes can't go through this obstacle. But this river Age is included in Integrated Life project, and last year there were investigations, and these we have scientific data that there are spawning grounds upstreams this dam, and according this Integrated Life project, by 2027 also fish path must be made on this dam, and we can control how they will do it. Next is very small interesting river. It is also tributary of Gauja. It seems a river, very small, but anglers have found they in their project that was at 2005. There was anglers project, and in this project, this investigation, they found there are sea trout spawning grounds upstreams. This obstacle, and owners agreed to destroy this obstacle. Here's case where we can demolish barrier. Next is a little bit fantastic project. We have River Gauja, also important salmon river, and Upper Gauja. We have 9 small hydroelectric power stations with total power only 2.6 megawatts. And this is very small value. And maybe sometime we can destroy these all power stations and to make this part of Gauja, Upper Gauja, suitable for spawning of salmons and sea trout. But here we need support of government. And very, very important obstacle for migration of salmonoids in Latvia is are beaver dams. Not only in Latvia, but also in whole Europe. And Andris Urtāns knows more about this problem, and maybe he can tell some words about that. But we must think about politics of destroying beaver dams and regulating of beavers. And at the end, one success story last year in Riva river that flows in Baltic Sea directly was a fish path completed, and that was done with the management of Ventspils municipality, Ventspils Novads, Ventspils district municipality, and by the funds of Retrout project. Thank you very much. Questions, if they are.
Thank you, Aldis.
Yes, I have one, Aldis. You can stop sharing your screen now if you want, so I can see you instead.
Okay.
Let me see where to start. Yeah, this Salasa dam, or not even a dam of what sort. You started talking about that, and I mean, I assume you prioritize it correctly. That's the most important one, basically. But then after a while, also you said that the scope for actual dam removal in Latvia is very low, that it's almost all of the ones you talked about are about fish migration mitigation, I mean, passageways or
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
So even in this Salazar case, where they now seem to be interested to start talking, it's still about creating some stupid little thing instead of just getting rid of it. Did I understand you correctly? They still don't want to remove.
Yeah.
They want to make some little passage. Is that it?
Yes, I do.
Andres maybe want to say some words.
Yeah,
no?
yeah.
Hello. So may I add some words? First, dealing with your question, Niels.
Yeah.
Dam has problem because it is sold together with about 20 sketch houses, and the owners know that if they sell only dam, then all those 20 houses will be on their own expenses. So it's a sort of their wish to sell dam and all those 20 houses together. And so it's all the time this, deal is stupid, but on all and because they know if no dam and if no the bridge with which they speculate all the time, then there will be not a penny worth for the rest of houses.
Yep.
And so all that and Gunnar knows because he was stand on that dam some 15 years ago, and
Yeah.
has changed. And I must add maybe that another part is the goodwill of ministers. Because in very beginning it was rather political wish just to build and to promote some of politicians which were on top level, because there were shadow owners as well in that case. And so still we are fighting for Saitale, and I hope that the bridge will fall down, and then the interest will stop, because then we can announce it as object with risk, which must be dismounted.
Yeah.
It's one way to just stop and wait. And other, I want to touch two additional issues. One issue is in Latvia we have peculiarity that small hydropower plants has this premium for each watt, and this price is almost double the price of electricity because it's so-called green, yeah.
Oh,
yeah. And in this situation, it's very stable business, even in this corona conditions, and this is real not time to discuss about, because it's real income for those people, among whom I must openly say many are sisters or brothers of politicians, yeah, and so it's very hard to fight with them, and therefore because really we can do what we can, and still there one thing which I wanted just mention, which has the same value as concrete dams in Latvia. Really, it's number of beaver dams, because in Latvia, if in Sweden you have 130,000 dams or beavers, in Latvia with our size we have 100,000 beavers, and the number of dams which make siltation, which stop migration, not only for fishes but as well for invertebrates. And the number of such obstacles is really much bigger than number of those man-made dumps. And therefore, what I am actively, and we try to push all society just to understand that if in this case we can't stand and change something dealing with concrete dumps, that in our hands there's possibilities to reopen those small clogged sea throat rivers or tributaries in which sea throat can get in. And what we must do, we must promote much stronger removal of beaver dumps. And so I would like just to ask, is it possible just to mention in final reports that in Baltic each country has a bit different peculiarities, and therefore at least mention that in some countries beavers are real obstacles for fish and river invertebrate migration. So it's okay, very short in long sentences. Okay.
Yeah, no, thank you. But I understand the political realities or the economic realities. We understand those. They are the same in a way in Sweden. Also, small hydropower stations are benefiting from extra money in Sweden. They do too. Even the 1.5 mega, I mean, the really small ones, they also get extra money, which is accounted for in this thinking of this fund. So they will be bought out, including that money. That is, I hate that, but that's the way it is. Yeah, but that's the way it is. But as I understand it, I mean, we're talking about, first of all, the Salasa one, and then also this Ropatsi, yeah. They are, none of those are functioning hydropower stations now. They're not. They're not. Yeah.
In the Ropatsi hydropower plant operating on deviation channel.
Yeah,
but still it's possible to dismount the central part of this dam, just to lessen this flow through deviation channel and both river migration possibility as well production of electricity. There's some possibilities, and as Aldis already mentioned, there is interest from local authorities because they're partly owners of this system.
No, but that sounds good. But I still want to basically go to Salasa and build a bridge, a new bridge for them, and then remove this bloody old thing, which is so stupid. This could be the prime. I mean, Estonia, Martin, you've made great work there in Sindi, and you have a process for it for elsewhere. And we've addressed now today Kunda. Primarily, I think we should address Kunda. But here is also Salasa. I mean, it's potentially an, Antanas. I don't know whether you guys have been discussing this in WG Bust in ISIS also. But I mean, this is the one river that could actually really, really increase, the amount of spawning salmon in Latvia. This has to be brought up to a much higher political level, I think, to get this done. And just build that bloody bridge for those people. Build a new, beautiful, whatever bridge that has nothing to do with the water, that just goes over.
For him, yes, to build bridge. This is my thoughts.
Okay. Anyway, but okay, so interesting list there too. I think I need to, next time I have high-level officials that I meet in Latvia, I need to talk to them about this. I talk to the Estonians quite often, Martin, so I'll talk to Erik and Ain or Erki and the ones about this stuff. But I would really want to know, in this case in Salasa, because it seems, you mentioned first before we started, Gunnar, low-hanging fruits. This is almost a rotten fruit. It's so old that it's.
I think we can discuss Steitzele for a long time. It's been a never-ending story for now, but we will hope to see what initiatives we can take.
But Sindi was also a long forever story, but now it's gone.
But it wasn't cheap.
If I can add, because people from Sindi done before removal, they came just to ask of our experience, and so they did it already 2 years ago, and but unfortunately, we are standing the same,
Yeah.
unfortunately, because it's really, I have spent at least 15 years making restoration activities, don't seem, but I am here, yeah.
Yeah. Gunnar, about this beaver dams, is this a reoccurring thing that we need to discuss later on?
I think we can, yeah, maybe we should discuss it separately. It's a problem in many countries.
Yeah, it is. It is here too.
And a bigger problem in the eastern part of Baltic Sea than in the
But regarding recommendations here in prioritized river, maybe one could say that we could relocate the beavers or you know.
Yeah, maybe we should say something about that in our report. But
okay.
We can come back to that. Okay, can we leave Latvia now so we can go on here? We have half an hour left of our time. I'd like to give the word to Lithuania. Is it Robertas or Antanas who would like to say something?
So coming back to the second part of my present PowerPoint slides. So, well, I'll come back to this to the exact dams just in a minute. But well, there's also one of the issues that we've been working on the Lamprey projects, how to select in a most precise way this priority list, how to compile that. So we had two approaches. One was that we took up in Latvia and one what we took up in Lithuania. So it represents with data, well, represents situation with the precise mapping data and with a very partial data. So in Latvia, we had this partial data case where we more or less concentrated on the catchment areas. You see the in the on the right the how to say, the measures, the inputs that we calculated this index on. So it's kind of based on partial data and best expert opinion. In Lithuania, we have some different approach. We have a detailed mapping of the river with concrete sections, with established, well, say not established, but identified potential of high, medium, and low. And for example, in this, what produced us the table of prioritization of list of the rivers, but actually it's just, you know, very final list. You could expand it for every river and see, you know, the dams which contribute to the biggest loss of potential there. So, you know, this will be available in no time, both in Klaipėda University webpage and in Bjor Institute's webpage. I believe in the coming few months, as we're still struggling with the final report. Okay, just a second, I'll reshare other screen. This is how our final list looks like of rivers. I'll try to maybe you know, what we could see from those lists, that we maybe have some different also categories there. So the ones which are red, how to say, highlighted in red, actually those are over 45. So those are not only the low-hanging fruit, but it's Bražuolė Dam, which is already removed at the moment, and Salantai Dam, which will be removed this summer. So yes, so that gives us already, you know, a good estimate that it's based on actually on those criteria that we all did evaluation according to. And then I suppose we could divide, at least I see how, to rivers below 30 points and above 30 points, which is which lacks or which is almost next to impossible, and the ones which has some degree of possibility. And I don't know, Nils and Gunnar, you should say if you want to run through the dams which was inventorized. All the time.
You don't have to go through all details. Give some general views why they were interested in them, so we understand.
Yeah, so actually, well, from environmental, yeah, we had some small discussion with also internally and with the fish scientists from Vilnius on the ranking of the ranks for evaluation for. So we just thought maybe it's good to have different weights for every position, redistribute the weights for every factor, as there is now, how much is it, 10, maybe more factors.
Yeah.
Because at the moment there's very much, at least from our perspective, there's very big weight on social, how to say, social factors. And maybe it should be stressed, much more stressed technical issues, technical factors, and of course, environmental. And what I presented earlier, this prioritization is just based on those environmental factors. So that could contribute to the general list of this. And, you know, what we see, you know, as the biggest, you know, from an environmental point, what would be the biggest, the wins in Lithuania? So that would be Anykščiai Dam, this one. The second, there would be the Vokės Cascade, which we evaluated next to impossible to remove all 3 dams, and Balskai Dam, of course, Jūra River. So it's also below the 30.
But just to clarify one thing, maybe, if I may, Gunnar.
Yeah.
So the criterias you list, or you had 3 basically criterias that you say, you keep saying impossible. So that is because A?
Well, not impossible, but very hard, you know.
Yeah, no, but so I'm just trying to get to the core here. So is it A, financial support, B, the social local support, and, you know, C, the sort of the political, or I mean on a higher level, or perhaps a permitting problem. Are those the ones you're saying? I mean, because ecologically there are arguments for all of these in different reasons. So that's fine. That we can scratch that. So the major problem is, as I see it in this one, where you note ones all over, it's the financial. It's if there would be money, then
it's
other things.
It's either all of 3 contributing. It's either political, usually on county level, either technical, and of course technical is related to financial.
Yeah, in a way, but okay. And how have you assessed why they're not eligible, say, for EU funding in some cases, and in those 2 that were already online to be removed, there was EU funding?
For one, it was Karolinas, if you remember. It was her initiative. It was public funding. That was it. It was a small, quite small dam, but it was
crowd financing.
Yeah, crowd financing. Yeah, crowd financing. The other one received the funding from EU funds, cohesion fund. Yeah, and actually, I don't know how much of them, but most probably half of them were listed in this water program for 2017-2023, I suppose, if I'm correct. And as it seems now that none of them will be removed, or even tackled, although they are in official document, but there's no initiative, or some places are how to say, stuck. The process, yeah. So the Salantai Dam was listed in this list of national list, the last moment, and it will be the only one that will be removed probably. So yes, so there's also this, to say, lack of municipalities and management of servants, officers from municipality and county level to take this up, because they are usually the ones who are delegated the ownership of the dams if they are not private, and they usually have some more urgent, how to say, work on the hand. And probably this cost-benefit analysis is not probably, but it's meant to show that on the long run, there could be much more costs for municipalities to sustain the dams than to demolish them at the given moment, because they have to be repaired to avoid any emergencies. So
yeah, safety, security reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I answer your question, Nils?
Yes, yeah. No, it's good. I'm just thinking of the prioritizing and the ranking and what issues to address to be able to come anywhere or get anywhere. That's I'm trying to get to. And I was listening to also, all the way through what we have here from Russia and down, that this political will and the owners being on the right side, these are important things, but it usually is about funding or alternatives and finding funding. And if some found EU funds, then others can find EU funds. That's an opening. So yeah, so that's what we can think of that one there. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
I think I can have one comment. I mean, what we try to do with these 11 parameters here to evaluate them, the possibility or the value of removing a dam was just one try to do it. I can agree, of course, you can weight different aspects in a different way. But I think what's important to the reporter, if we point out some dams as priority, I think we have to just explain what are the major problems. Is it political support from the municipality, or lack of capacity in administration, or is it lack of financing, or what's, we have to point out critical points, so to say. What you have to address them to come further.
That's what I've seen.
Yeah, that would be actually lack of capacity and expertise.
Yeah,
because there's there's very little such project in Lithuania in total of removal. It's only the very first steps that are being taken at the moment. So, if you take the new route, which you would be the first one to take, so usually you face much more hurdles on the way. In comparison to if you would take that 5 years, 10 years in the future. Usually it's related to the planning documents and technical documents for removal.
But I mean, one comment then could be then, each municipality would of course have problem to have a competent capacity But then one proposal can be that you have an organization, I suppose, in Lithuania for all municipalities in the country, and maybe they should have some capacity, some people employed that could support the municipalities with expertise and capacity to work on these kind of issues. That could be one idea.
Yeah. That's a good idea. Well, a good idea to consider.
Okay, can I ask Nina Palutskaya?
I don't have any presentation, but my comment would be very short. We gather information and made a report about our dams and sent you, and you know about it. But now I couldn't get any feedback from our governors and stakeholders. You know about our political situation. It is not possible not only to organize a meeting and talking, but even to try agree about something with stakeholders and governors, because that's what we can do additionally to report to information which we sent you. I think we will try to gather additional information about another dams, and not only dams on the salmon rivers, but other dams which are obstacles for migration for eel, for example, and other dams on the rivers in the Neman Basin. And that's it, what we can do now. We'll wait for victory and follow project. Now, what I can tell about our situation now.
Okay, thank you, Nina. I can just say, and told earlier, we're still working with the Strasha Dam and with the fauna passage, and that goes on. So it works still.
Yeah,
we will see.
Will work. Yeah.
But there will come out some results or proposal for construction before summer or during summer this year. So goes on.
I hope in this sphere we could do something.
Yeah, we hope so too. We can go on. Okay, we thank you very much, Nina. Now finally, I will turn to Poland and to Artur. Yes, we've been waiting for you here for a long time here now.
But it was nice to listen that not only in Poland situation looks not so nice. With beavers and others. Maybe it will be a little misunderstanding, but I understood to show the report and these 10 rivers I have choose. But wider about the problem. And the problem, it looks that we have in many countries the same problem. At the start, we were more focused on hydropower plants and dams for hydroelectricity production, but in Poland, especially thanks to why not work? Sorry.
Start the thing.
Yeah. Okay. Currently, it should be better.
Yeah. Thank you.
So here you can see the results of a few projects of counting barriers. It is still not full list. So we have, the truth is that after checking all existing data during this national surface water restoration plan, we found that we have 90% of rivers in bad ecological status, and in this, big part is thanks to existing barriers. And here we start to check at the start these big barriers, which have in Poland we have not too many, and the full production of hydro energy, it is at the level 1.5% of needs of our industries. So it means nothing. But we have near 1,000 small hydropower plants and more than 15,000 of wires and thresholds and such structures used by farmers, by fish farms, etc. So it is a lot, and big part of Polish river has no connectivity. This morphological connectivity, which takes the result of analyze down, but not only. Here, from the information, I am currently working with Professor Piotr Dębowski from Inland Water Fishery Institute. So here is the list of, in his opinion, you know this list because it is Piotr's report to HELCOM. The truth is that important for spawning are only a few of this river, especially for salmon and other species. This is, we should talk about bigger rivers, not such small like Gowinica or Piaśnica or Wołczenica, because during last few years and very bad situation with water levels in smaller rivers, some of these rivers are not usable for spawning for migratory species. Unfortunately, we have so less water level during the spawn time that I see no potential in this river. But still, in my priority list, Drwęca River has to be taken under deeper analysis, and we have very good situation because we have a strong team of anglers who fight to open this river from many years, and we have a group with whom we are able to talk about the problem. And the problem is that there are 2 fish ladders, but none of it work. So, and it is really, you know, for me it's a pity, because up from these wires and up from Lubicz there is ichthyofaunist reserves. So it's a joke, you know. All river is protected, but spawners of salmon and sea trout and other species has no good way to visit this reserve. So very funny situation. Not funny, but it looks like it looks. At our list, of course, currently you can see Ina River, Drava is full open, but Drava River has other problem, and only half of this river currently is usable for spawners for salmonids. Ina River, at Ina River, after my experience on Drava River, I can say that I start about the removal of the wire. Unfortunately, this wire has 100 years, but I start to think that we could leave this old bridge and remove only down part of the close to nature gravel stony structures, we are able to prepare the same level which is necessary for small hydropower plant at the Ina River, and we could have full open river, 130 kilometers. So it sounds very good in Polish situation. And this is second. Of course, we have here, both on Ina and Polnica, I add to a report, we have very good communication with water authorities, what in Poland is very, very important. But coming back, this is what you will find in my report. At the same time, during our project in Poland, it was prepared before it was this fish passes design, dimension and monitoring. And the last 2 years, I was a part of two authors teams. One is this national, this is the guideline of restoration of natural of surface waters. And second is water in farming, because both these aspects of water use in catchment is very important, not only dams. But I can tell you, we did a lot, but at the same time, our government not new because they are second time came back to very old inland shipping development plan in our country. So in country where any river is enough big to be, will have few international waterways. And the plan is, because I have information, my Wi-Fi is not working too good. But so we are talking about restoration of connectivity, and it is ensured in our law and water law, but we have to know that there is for Odra River 25 dams to control water level for inland shipping. Every of these dams for sure will have fish passage. But you know how it works. It will be not river. It will be cascade of lakes. So for salmonids, it means end of Odra River for migratory species. At Vistula River, currently they are proceeding the procedure EAI procedure for next dam down from Włocławek. In time that having only one dam, it's much easier to remove this Włocławek and have one big river free flowing. Unfortunately, talks with this government are not easy. So here is alternative. Here we have Włocławek, 50 kilometers. It is prepared alternative, this bypass channel in size of mid-river, but it has no sense when down from this here near Nieszawa they will build. So this is the true, but still I think we have to talk about Vistula River because Włocławek cut 60% of tributaries, very important, and this, it was the potential of natural reproduction for many species. It's so huge. This is in a Vistula River catchment. This is 60% of Poland. So all mountains, not all, but 60% of mountains rivers. But here, Dręca, you can see these two wires, both has fish ladders, but not working good, and it's strange. It's strange. And it is only 12 kilometers from the mouth to the Vistula, so it cut all spawning grounds. I was focused on Pomeranian River, and I will try to explain you why. Here you have results of monitoring of quality of water in Poland. And as you see, a little better is only in north part of our country. The rest is so strongly changed in so big distances that I am not currently optimist. Is it possible to pass by so sensitive species like salmonids? But we have some records after better work of fish ladder in Włocławek. We have some information from Sun River and from our smaller river about some sea trout individuals caught by anglers. But it still not mean a population. And the report of Professor Dębowski from Włocławek shows that there is sinusoid. 1 year was fantastic, but second year only a few. So did not work enough good. Here we have much better situation. So why both this straight going to the Baltic Sea rivers, you know, Rega, Parsenta, and others, about 10 of them. I was preparing with Grzegorz Drążkowiak 10 years ago, small report about potential of these rivers for CCB, for Fish Secretariat and CCB. So you know some data. Here is really big potential. And in second part, this is Drava River, but here for spawners, it is 500 kilometers to pass by the Odra and other to come to the Drava. And near Drava is one of the best salmon river in Odra basin. This is Gvda, but unfortunately at Gvda River we have many dams and only a few of them has some passages, and to remove any, unfortunately, this is in Poland very difficult. So I am more optimistic that we will remove small ruins of wire on Gowienica River, and we are currently during the project Impro Hub. This is Interreg project together with German colleagues as a Rewilding Oder Delta Association. And we will, in 1 year, we will have the design of removal and restore connectivity. And second, in our idea, this is this small group of small ruins of wires near Ina tributaries, and Polnica River here somewhere near Koszalin. This is realistic things to remove, and a little optimism. Amber, you know, this Amber project, this Amber map start to be more data, to have more data currently. So some anglers start to be more active. Our water authority also were talking during the Fish Migration Day about some things to do and plans, etc., etc. But here I lost all my trustness because they were telling us the same with this surface water restoration plan, and currently it looks like greenwashing. They try to do nothing. So from last minute, CCB knows, thanks to being Eva in CCB team, that together we prepared some letter. Currently, this letter, which we can translate, this is moratorium for stop changing the rivers in Poland. It was sent, and at the same time, our this MP I am working for, he also put it his way straight to Prime Ministry. Let's wait for answer. And from me, that's it. Also optimistic. This is 144 centimeter salmon from 2 seasons ago, spawning run, and we are closely to prepare the steering system for downstream migration for smolts. And Professor Dembowski, during monitoring at Drava last year, he caught first time from 25 years few individuals for wild salmon. Wild salmon smolts. So it was fantastic after quarter of century, first time.
And they're natural. They're not. They're not.
Yeah,
put
yeah,
there.
they're
I
natural
mean,
because there is any releasing. We have. This is national park. They are not able to use any other producers or these smolts from other places or fry. So, any questions?
Thank you, Arthur, very much. It's of course the development you're talking about inland shipping and all this. What is of course the big threat for the future, and we really hope that it will not get the financing from EU funds, so they can make this through.
Yeah, this is strange, really strange.
Yeah, and we also have known for many years, as you said here, that the Pomeranian River have the best chance to host them salmon population. So we should have our focus there, and I think that's perfectly correct. Yeah, I don't know. Anyone else having any question for Arthur?
Yes, I do. We're running out of time, but I guess people can stay. We're not catching any planes to go home, so we can stay for a few more minutes. No, thank you, Arthur. I mean, it is, as you say, it's sad. Equal to what Nina told us. Of course, it's very much a political situation, perhaps. But I'm also curious, again, thinking of what we have to work with. So, we have the HELCOM process to work with. We have the EU Commission, of course, many times in our corner. They favor the activities we do, and this particular issue of river connectivity and surface water status across Europe. We all know that the Commission has focused on this in this biodiversity strategy, saying that it is very, very bad. So our concrete output from this project also, and this idea of these prioritization of rivers and highlighting the problems for each country, where we can point to this stupid thing in Salasa and this bloody thing in Estonia, and I think for us to boil it down to like, do this, at least do this and that, and fulfill these criteria. We need the political will, we need the funding, we need the whatever, to get it done. I think that increases our chances greatly. So in your case, what you have now told, basically, I would think that the links also to Odra with Germany there, and the interest from Germany, greatly improves the chances of doing things there as well on a like this cross-border cooperation level. Although I know that the Odra Commission, at least if Misha was here, he would be saying that's just a toothless nonsense, whatever, they do nothing. But so do you think, in your case, if funding was available, if the techniques, expertise, I think you have. I think you know what to do and how to do it. So funding was available and local support was available. Do you think those are the key things that's missing, or is it all the way, it's just political, it's Warsaw?
Once again, sorry, because I have a here dog and he disrupt me. Last part of question, please.
Yeah, so is it financial and local support that's the major issues, or is it Warsaw? Is it the bloody political
maybe
nonsense.
not Warsaw level, but for sure a regional level and the regional authorities. But it's just in last few days situation turned into better for us. As you maybe heard, Commission start to ask Poland about many bad moves environmental.
Yep.
So it will be, they will have to show something.
There we go.
Our decision makers works in this way, in my opinion. They, currently they are afraid they will lose all funds. So they will do something, but it is still greenwashing. The problem is about understanding what we are talking about. And here I think we have a lot of things to do to send the message to the wider audience, because we are meeting in our groups, we are knowing each other all over around the Baltic. But when I start to talk with people who don't care about fish, they don't care about our problems. They want to have, electricity, and they are thinking this is hydro energy, this is green. This is the problem. We still are enclosed ball. This is our problem in Poland for sure. But people don't. But at the same time, we have huge problem currently, and here we will have to do something with development of really intensive farming, because our monitoring system works not so good like in Western countries. So we have big farmers from Germany, Netherlands, Denmark, from everywhere, pigs, etc., etc. And the emission level to our waters changed. This is few times higher emissions currently from the farming area. So it is why we have suddenly so bad situation with water quality in many rivers. So this is, instead of dam removal, we have another problem, huge problem. And
water quality problem.
Deep groundwater use for this intensive farming, whereas we are able to install many pumping system and use the water which should ensure the flows, this mid-flow for the rivers and lakes existing. So much more problems, but we will, we will fight. We will not stop in this process. So.
Okay, thank you, Arto, very much. I think we have to end the meeting very soon. And what I would like to ask you about that, I will be working more also on the final report, and there, besides your input then on the national level, we will have other content in there. And I sent something to you yesterday, or you have it this morning. We don't have time to discuss it now, but I would like to have some more input from you, and I can send a mail to you. If you have some interesting views that we can put up interesting examples on financing of removal of dams or of fauna passages. If we have something when it comes to how to solve problem with the cultural interests, if we have interesting, and there is a couple of such things, and I can send a mail to you about it. But I would like to ask you if you think it can be possible that we may have another web meeting, maybe in the end of next week sometime. Would that be possible? Interesting for you? And I will then send you some more papers document and put up some certain points that I would like to have your comments on. Is that realistic?
one of these days, but I am not sure, because one of these days I will go to Polanów, to Grabowa River for terrain visit.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. I will try to manage it. When you decide, please send me.
But maybe, I mean, maybe if you see it as a problem, if you have time, if you have a limited time, all of you, then it might be better that I just send out mail to you with some questions, and I ask to give some comments or response from you. Then I can use that and try to put in then new text in the final report. And then I can provide you then with a draft report, and then you can comment draft report. And that's also one way we could work. Maybe that's easier.
Yeah, maybe that's easy.
Okay. Okay. And what I would like I need also to debate with each one of you to see if we shall have, you know, your full report we plan to have as an attachment to the main report. So there will be 6 national reports. But then I plan also to make some kind of a summary of each national report. And to do that, I need to communicate directly with you with some ideas on this. But it's no idea to discuss this together with all of you. But I can send a mail to you about this. So
it sounded, Gunnar, again, just a short, it sounded again like this potential issue of natural migration barriers such as the beaver dam. I don't know, Arto, you didn't say anything about that, but there are these problems elsewhere. I know there are experience of this, and I know, for example, in the Swedish case, there have been both arguments against and for removing that. Many of these dams are quite low, and often the salmon needs at least can get up. Have difficulty sometimes of getting down, but they can pass them. There are some indications of that. So I was just, I was just flagging that since it was an issue mentioned by Aldis and Andres here of how to handle this. So that needs to be reflected somehow on mitigation proposal measures or something.
Yeah, my comment would be, I think we should have a short text about the dams and just say that this is an important problem that needs to be solved in some river systems.
But sometimes.
Yeah, please, Arthur.
We are trying to offer that in the place of especially the small dams, it's easy to, during this restoration of cascades of rapids and pools, you can raise the bottom of and you can give the same effect, because people are telling, it's important for me for something. Okay, so you can prepare it. And in such cases, for example, we will try to play this way in Ina River. And in other places, we are trying to use this way of changing wire into restored stretch of the river. So, but with higher, it's very much bigger problem, because it's not easy to, to ensure that. The problem is sometimes they are arguing that they need the same water level up from the dam. And how to do it? We don't want to have this high water level up from the dam. We don't want to have lake there. So we have to change it. So it's not easy, but we are working on this.
When it comes to your last comment, Arthur, I think if we have some good example where this has been made, like you say, within a way, you make an rapid or something, if we have such example, it would be good, of course, to describe that as a good example in our report. We can do that. That's
okay.
The best way.
Yeah.
But then you have to provide me with such information and maybe a figure or a photo or something.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. Any more comments from you? I plan to send out to you then a mail with some questions, with some input from you, hopefully, and also give comments on paper I sent to you this morning. So that will be the next step then. You know, I will try to finalize the report until the 23rd of March, or the end of this month, because we will send it to HELCOM. HELCOM have in April the ecosystem-based ecosystem fisheries group, and we shall provide it to this group. So that's the reason we do it now. We can update it also later if we want to, but we need to have a report now to send in to HELCOM.
Yeah, because it links to one of these, or two or three of these activities or actions that will now probably go on to this Baltics action, updated Baltics action plan. And this is a concretization. This is what you need to do. You know, we said this is the goal. Here's the proposal. This is why we need these, you know, details of, is it funding, is it political will, or whatever. Political will, that's what we can address in HELCOM, you know, to say, well, you have to, you should, and you agreed to this, so you should, you know. But the funding bit is always the, yeah.
And the reason is also then, you know, that in the Baltic Sea Action Plan in 2007, there was one action to say that sea region countries shall then protect and have active protection of at least 10 wild salmon rivers until 2009, it was said. And the problem is that this has not been implemented fully because it has not been then separated to what countries, you know, should. And I have calculated in the report I made also here. I tried just to see the proportion of this 10 according to the proportion of how many salmon you have in each country. So then you can have a quota for each country. That's my idea. So our report then will be provide them examples of dams that can be removed or mitigated in each country. They can implement the action in the Baltic Sea Action Plan from 2007 that still not has been implemented. That's the idea. And that's the message to HELCOM. Okay, anyone having any more comments? You do that. If not, then we try to finalize our meeting. Have you? Yeah, Andres, please.
So I think I can make 1-2 page such discussion paper or amendment dealing with beaver issues, just for your considerations and approvals. And I can do it Tuesday, Tuesday next Monday. 1-2 pages, yeah. Just
perfect.
Somebody must do it, and so I shall make this paper, and then you can refresh and improve it. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Good. Could we have some good examples in Sweden too, where this has been made, and in Finland as well, where it's been removed, or the beaver has been relocated, or one has changed the river water levels in certain times so that the fish can migrate when they need to, and then, you know, this stresses the beaver. So some animal rights group have acted on this and said, oh, but you stress the poor beaver. Well, so
it's right, your issue, because I want to make such paper in which we can balance all those needs from friends and animal friends.
No. I have just told these, when I discussed with animal rights people, I've told, if we were to ask the beaver, do you think it prefers to be dead or stressed parts of the year? You know, and so it's, there are pros and cons here in the world. Okay. Gunnar.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andres. Yeah. So any contribution for you on details or examples or whatever that we can provide in the report is welcome, of course. But then I think we finished the meeting now then. I thank you very much for participating, and come back to you with mail sent out to you, and we'll keep in touch, and we'll see if we will have another meeting or not.
Exactly. Good. Keep spirits up.
Yep.
Good.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.